Hello, my name is Concepcion Marcellan, PhD student at the Department of Física Aplicada of the University of Zaragoza. I'm going to talk about the influence of contact lens wearing on corneal biomechanics during a short-term follow-up period. This is the structure of the presentation. First of all, I'm going to introduce what ocular biomechanics is and its influence, parameters, and application. Then, the objectives will come. At this point, I'm going to talk about the reason we started the work. In the result, I will try to explain what we find in the work. The conclusion will be the next point to finish with future perspectives. First of all, the cornea is the outer part of the eye. It's transparent and has like a dome shape. What we are talking about when we refer to corneal biomechanics? When we apply mechanical knowledge to the biological organs and structure, we develop what we know as biomechanics. Corneal biomechanics studies the balance and deformation suffered by the corneal tissue when it's subjected to any force. The cornea is an anisotropic material, so it doesn't have a linear behavior. This is due to the structure of the stroma, especially how the collagen fibers are placed in that layer of the cornea. We are facing a tissue with viscoelastic properties. It's very interesting to know the response of the eye to the external agents such as the application of treatments or in pathologies. Factor influencing corneal biomechanics. External factors, atmospheric pressure, eyelid traction, and extraocular muscle traction. And intraocular factors like ciliar muscle traction, intraocular pressure. Biomechanical properties are responsible for corneal stability and functionality, with a very high impact on vision. The cornea is a viscoelastic tissue, which means that when it is subjected to a deformation, it takes time to recover. The biomechanical alteration can be sign of edema. In contact lenses wearers, users, is very common when its use is not adequate. Corneal edema causes loss of transparency of the cornea. For now, diagnosis and follow-up is based on the skill of the examiner. This is why a target parameter is needed. Biomechanics also play an important role in diagnosis of pathologies, in corneal treatments and surgeries, but at the moment there is not very used. Objective. In this work, we want to determine the effects of the use of silicone-hydrogel contact lenses on biomechanical parameters and their relationship to intraocular pressure. The purpose of this work is to be able to use parameters such as corneal hysteresis as a biomarker in diagnosis and treatment in ophthalmology. We continue with the methodology section. Exclusion criteria have used any type of contact lenses or corneal disease. We use the aura to measure hysteresis, the corneal resistance factor, and the intraocular pressure, same full images to measure corneal thickness. The protocol used was: first, control measure without contact lenses. Second, measure were divided into groups. One group used the 10 days, used the lenses 10 days, and another 20 days. In both cases, the lenses were worn 8 hours a day. The final value of H measurement was the average of 3 shots. Hysteresis. Hysteresis in a material is the ability to absorb and dissipate energy. In the cornea, it gives us the idea of how long it takes for the tissue to recover after a deformation. To measure hysteresis in the eye, the most used method is by introducing a pressure on the cornea to flatten it, and then stop producing that pressure, and the cornea recovers from the deformation. In this graph, the curve with 2 peaks is the deformation produced by the pressure. The curve with a Gaussian shape is the pressure exerted. The difference between the point where the first peak intersects with pressure and the second peak intersects with pressure is the hysteresis value. This value tells us how the tissue has recovered against the pressure exerted. Keep in mind that the cornea is a viscoelastic tissue and takes time to recover. If we compare these two graphs, we can see how the one below has a lower hysteresis than the one above. Corneal resistance factor is the corneal indicator of elasticity. Is directly related to the thickness of the cornea and indicates its total mechanical resistance. The first peak of the graph reveals the elasticity capacity of the cornea. Results. When the physical and biomechanical data are compared, it can be seen how the use of contact lenses produce an increase of hysteresis and a decrease in intraocular pressure. Taking into account the corneal thickness of the resistance factor, no statistical relationship is found. This graph also saw the impact of the use of contact lenses on the relationship between hysteresis and intraocular pressure. It's interesting to know the use of contact lenses produce an increase in corneal hysteresis and a decrease in intraocular pressure, and very, very important, and is very, very important for the treatment of glaucoma. The relationship between physical and biomechanical parameters is represented in these graphs. This correlation has led us to work on a simulator to obtain the corneal hysteresis and the resistance for factor through the measurement of intraocular pressure. Conclusions. The most important finding of our work is that the use of contact lenses influences intraocular pressure by reducing it. This is important in the treatment of glaucoma. Another important finding is the inverse relationship between hysteresis and intraocular pressure. Future work. Now we are working on a new simulator of biomechanical parameters. Another line of research is how different types of lenses affect in intraocular pressure and hysteresis. And that's all. Thank you for your attention.